So we are going to switch subjects, I believe. We have our next guest that's queued up and ready to go. Colonel Cedric Leighton is joining us now from our D.C. Bureau. Colonel, thank you so much for joining us here. Have you ever been to the U.K.? Certainly you have.
I sure have, Laura. It's a great place, love it, and it sounds like from what I heard from the previous segment, it would be a blast for the Olympics, to say the least.
I know. Next year sounds like a fun year. I definitely probably put an idea in a lot of people's heads about where to travel next year. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We have, of course, a much more serious topic to discuss with you today. We want to talk about what's going on with Syria, and you're here to bring us up to speed and talk about some of the things that people may not know. Is Iran Syrian President Assad's lifeline? A question that's being asked right now. Bring us up to speed on what's happening with the two countries and the politics behind it.
Sure, Laura. Well, basically what's happening is Syria and Iran have had a partnership almost ever since the Iranian Revolution back in 1979. In the early 1980s, the regime of President Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad, got together with the Iranians, with Ayatollah Khomeini and the other powers that be in Iran, and they established a very concrete relationship that extended to supporting Hezbollah, which of course is the element that is principally engaged in fighting Israel in Lebanon, and of course it does other things as well, but that's the principal way that we look at Hezbollah as an army, a guerrilla army that is targeting Israel and working against some of the other Lebanese interests that Israel has. So when you look at a very complicated situation that really started in the mid-1970s and then was exacerbated by the Iranian Revolution, what you have is a whole situation where the Iranians and the Syrians have basically become bedfellows in a Middle Eastern effort to establish an axis of power centered between the two countries. What's also interesting about Syria, Lauren, is that they have the Alawite minority is actually running the country. It's about 9, depending on whose estimates you look at, anywhere from 7 to 8% of the population. And they are controlling a majority Sunni nation. Iran, of course, is a Shiite nation. And what is happening with Iran is that Iran wants to use Syria as a proxy force in order to gain more power, more momentum within the Middle East. If the Syrian government falls, based on the latest elements of the Arab Spring that are happening in Syria right now, then Iran is going to have a major problem carrying out its foreign policy within the Middle East.
You know, I was reading just before we came on the air this hour that Syria's agreed today to Arab League demands that it allow observers into the country, but on the condition that the group immediately drop sanctions and agree to an amendment that League officials have previously rejected. Can you share any more on that?
Well, that's basically right. The Syrians are going to be playing for any kind of advantage that they can play. Their hand is basically dealt right now, and because of defections within the military, which have been at the lower and mid-level so far, but also within their intelligence services, they have some serious problems assuring the loyalty of their army and of their intelligence service. And by intelligence service, you're really talking secret police in Syria. So what the Arab League has tried to do is they've tried to establish a mechanism for a peace conclave within Syria. What's also interesting about that is the government of Nouri al-Maliki in Iraq is working to try to achieve peace in Syria as well for their own ends and for their own purposes. But when it comes to the Arab League proposal, I don't think the Arab League is going to accept the Syrian conditions. The Syrian conditions are such that it's going to be very, very difficult for them to meet those, for the Arab League to meet those, and it's going to be very tough for the Arab League to actually look at everybody with a straight face if they do those kinds of things. So the long and short of it is that the Arab League is really between a rock and a hard place. They either do more things to get Assad out of there, or they acquiesce to Assad, and I'm going to predict that they will do more things to try to get Assad out of there.
Oh, very good, Colonel. I need you to stand by if you would, because I want to get your thoughts on our next report, staying in the theme here of where we are. Catherine Herridge is joining us live from our D.C. bureau. Catherine, thank you, of course, always for being with us. Great to see you. And we want to talk to you about the U.S. Did the U.S. lose Egypt by not supporting Mubarak? Bring us up to speed on this story, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Laura. Analysts say the overwhelming signal was really one of incompetence because senior administration officials wavered earlier this year and then seemed to contradict themselves. In January, the vice president, speaking to PBS, said the Egyptian president Hosni Mubarak was not in the same category as the Libyan leader and others in North Africa.
Mubarak has been an ally of ours in a number of things that he's been very responsible on relative to geopolitical interest in the region, the Middle East peace efforts, the actions Egypt has taken relative to normalizing relationship with Israel. I think that it would be, I would not refer to him as a dictator.
So after the dictator comment, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton seemed to mince her words as well by first calling for the Egyptian president. This file video you've got right here is just from last year to heed the protesters. And she explained that this was a complicated situation where yes or no answers were simply not enough. And then eventually the president switched course and called on Mubarak to step down. Now, after Mubarak's exit, this really paved the way for the democratic elections that we've had in Egypt, where the Islamists, long outlawed by President Mubarak, are poised to claim more than 60% of the vote. 24%, in fact, is likely to go to an ultra-conservative party called the Noor Party, and 37% to the Muslim Brotherhood.
You know, as long as these parties and individuals are committed to democratic principles and democratic governance, then, you know, we are supportive.
It's not clear whether the Muslim Brotherhood and this ultra-conservative Islamic Party will put religion or the economy first, but one analyst noted that really we're dealing with a new Middle East, and the key pillars for security, the Camp David Accords with Israel and also Egypt, these are things that can no longer be relied upon to secure our interests in the region, Laura.
All right, Catherine Herridge, live from our D.C. bureau. Thank you so much for
You're
joining
welcome.
us this hour. We'll look for you on Fox News Channel throughout the day. And heading back to Colonel Cedric Leighton, also at the D.C. bureau, probably right down the hall from Catherine. We want to ask you for your thoughts on what we just heard from Catherine. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yep, sorry, we didn't have your audio. Go ahead, start that over.
Okay, well, I think Catherine has done an excellent job, as usual, summarizing what's going on with all the different players in Egypt. What you see here is a resurgence, and you know, I guess I should say it, a public resurgence of the Islamic fundamentalist vote and political parties within Egypt. I think the Egyptian revolution was an inevitable revolution, no matter what we did and no matter what kinds of things or efforts we would try with Mubarak, because I think the Mubarak's regime's days were numbered from really about 2008 to 2009, and you could probably even stretch that a little bit earlier than that. But having said that, you know, it's always difficult to watch the U.S. government ditch itself of a leader that has helped us in the past. So Mubarak obviously had done a lot to support the U.S. through various efforts. The other part of it is that the Egyptian people, 2/3 of whom are literate, are very prone to supporting Islamic fundamentalist parties. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be as extremist as, you know, let's say Al-Qaeda or the Wahhabi form of Islam that is prevalent in Saudi Arabia, but what they will do is they will seek to capitalize for their own ends on the Islamic resurgence within the Arab world, and the Muslim Brotherhood was very well organized, very poised to actually take advantage of the political situation, and that is why we're seeing the election results that we're seeing right now.
Excellent. Colonel, I'm so glad that you are still with us and mic'd up, because I just wanted to read to you a Fox News alert that we got involving Iran. So if I could get you to comment on this as well. Want to use you while I have you. This is great that you're here. Sure. We do have a Fox News alert that U.S. military sources confirm to Fox News that Iran is in possession of an RQ-170 Sentinel stealth drone. We've been reporting on this, the model that was used in the bin Laden raid and it vanished over the weekend, in which Iran claims it shot down. I know I'm reading that to you straight off my BlackBerry. Is there something that you can comment on that?
Sure, this is a significant problem for the United States. Laura, the basic thing that you have here is a very sensitive piece of stealth technology that has gotten in the hands of the Iranians. Now, I don't believe that the Iranians have shot it down. What happened was it was probably the one that the ISAF forces, the International Security Assistance Force in Afghanistan, was referring to, that the UAV operators lost control over, and that probably drifted into Iranian airspace. When they talk about having possession of it, the initial reports from Iran indicated that the UAV, or unmanned aerial vehicle, was one that had minimal damage, and that clued me in on the fact that it probably had not been shot down, because once you shoot something down, there's significant damage to it, and it is a very, very hard to glean information from that. What the Iranians are going to do with this is they're going to take this this UAV, and they're going to probably let the Chinese and the Russians have access to it. That compromises our stealth technologies, and it also may compromise some of our intelligence gathering equipment. Now, a lot of people will say there will be no compromise to it because it's all encrypted. That's well and good, except there are ways to at least reverse engineer some aspects of that. So I consider this a significant setback for the U.S. and for our ability to stay ahead in the UAV game and in the surveillance and reconnaissance game as well.
All right, Colonel Cedric Leighton, thank you so much for joining us today from our Washington, D.C. Bureau. Always a pleasure to see you here on Fox News, and we appreciate you chiming in on a variety of subjects for us today. Colonel, have a great day. Thank you so much.